Welcome, film industry professionals, film buffs, and aspiring filmmakers. I'm your host, Fernando Gillen, and our lovely co-host, Dana De La Camera. This is the Cinema Pathway TV show, presented by Paradoxical Films and brought to you by Cinematography. Join us on this journey behind the camera and, most importantly, beyond what we know about cinema and the craft of filmmaking and all its mysteries. So please, take a seat, grab a soda and some popcorn, and join us on this cinema road together, because we are the Cinema Pathway TV show.
Welcome, film family, to the Cinema Pathway TV show. I'm your co-host, Dana De La Camera, and today we have a real treat for you. A multi-talented, multidisciplinary artist and filmmaker and published author, Taylor Miller. Taylor, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Dana. Thanks for having me.
Taylor Miller is an award-winning documentarian and published author. She's passionate about storytelling, and she shares that passion through photography, film, painting, and writing. Taylor received her master's and her PhD from the European Graduate School, Saas-Fee, in Switzerland. Miller loves life as a documentarian. Whether she is photographing women and children on the islands of Micronesia for the United Nations, her work includes directing, producing, acting, and cinematography for short films, features, documentaries, and music videos. At 24, she wrote and directed Debris, a short film that premiered at the New York International Independent Film Festival. She recently traveled to India to shoot and star in Pink City, a feature film by director Nick Gaglia. Miller has served as a festival programmer for over 10 years and is now the director of the Slamdance Film Festival. She is also the co-founder of the Unstoppable program within the Slamdance Film Festival, which is a filmmaking showcase created for and by filmmakers with visible and non-visible disabilities. In 2023, Miller introduced the inaugural Slamdance Miami, which focused on emerging filmmakers from Latin America and Florida, in collaboration with Slamdance alumni and Miami's art leaders. I love to see women thriving and being acknowledged, and not just women, but talented filmmakers like yourself, empowering the community and creating a space and a platform for their voices to be heard. And so that's really exciting and so deserving for you.
Thank you, Dana.
Absolutely.
Likewise.
Yeah, Thank you. So we're going to get into all of this juiciness because there's so much to dive into. But first, we want to know, Taylor, take us all the way back to the beginning. You know, what was your childhood like? I know you're from Kentucky, so take us back to how you got into the arts. What was your first creative expression in the arts?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I know that this has been a long time in the making. You know, I know that we met right at the precipice of the pandemic and were introduced to each other through our brilliant collaborator, Juliet Romeo, who, more on Juliet later. She's absolutely a supernova, and introduced Dana and I, and we had a lunch during the pandemic. We were sitting like 20 feet away from each other outside, kind of yelling to each other because that was what we did.
Yeah, we were
at that
total
time.
rebels. We were like, who cares? We're connecting.
Yeah,
pandemic or not.
Yeah, we were rebels. Yeah. 20 feet away. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And likewise, you know, I think that all of your effort from when I first met you to, you know, just catching up before this outside today, community is still your true north. It's still my true north, doing all that we can do to elevate each other and to bring positivity and creativity as a solution to things. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. I mean, look, we got to go back in the canon, right? Okay, so first off, you're going to see this eventually on your TV or your tablet or your phone or however you see this. But in the room that I'm in right now, there are these incredible red cameras, and there's like 3 of them, I think. Just behind the wall on the other side is the most incredible warehouse cameras and lenses, and it goes on forever. And I just wanted to like give a shout out to Cinevideotech, because it's just like happening right over there, and it's an incredible collection of cinema history. Really?
Yes, and they teach 16 millimeter film.
It's
classes.
unbelievable. Yeah, tell me. Yeah, so
get a quick plug. Cinevideotech.
we got to do the
Thank
plug.
you.
The plug is very important.
One of the things about Taylor that you will come to love is that she is all about giving everyone else their flowers. And today we want to give you yours.
Their flowers. Okay.
And thank you. Received. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. And thank you for the shout out.
For sure. Yeah. So I was born in Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky. I'm the youngest of 4. I have a brother and 2 sisters. They're the best. We're super tight, and we're there for each other. It's so meaningful to be able to have those kind of relationships now as adults. The most creative people that I know, but in totally different ways, which is pretty awesome. My parents, amazing, incredible, very blessed to have such amazing parents. Both my mom and dad are still very supportive and very active in my life, and they love being a part of the grandkids' lives and and everything. I think what's amazing is that as I get older, I realize even more how grateful I am for what they instilled in me about stories and the importance of stories, how stories are articulated and how they're told, and responsibility to helping people.
And how did your parents help you with that?
Well, I think just their support was always rooted in action. I remember being really, really young. I mean, I was at the market with my mom, and there was like a poster, and it was about learning how to be a short story writer. I think I was maybe 8. And it was at the university in our town. We called the number, and, my daughter wants to know, is it possible to, sit in on this class? And the lady was like, sure, bring her down, and I'll never forget that. It was one of those really, those moments of really learning about, the craft of short story writing. And I'd go I think there were 8 sessions, and it was on a Saturday, and my dad being able to share books with me. And I think the art of listening, or the art of deep connection, is so pivotal, and it's not it's pivotal when you're this age and then not that age, or, it's all the time. But, you're also growing up, right? And there's so many different things that you want to do and you want to say. And, my parents never said I don't think that's possible.
Especially if at 8 years old, you see something for college and your mom's like, well, yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah, but it's also what's really amazing now too, is that my dad, he just last October, he published his first novel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so he is a short story writer for a very long time. And my mom, today, just to come with me here, and just the level of support, instant. And I think that they've journeyed with me, the roads that I've taken. I've always felt really heard and really understood as far as the importance of creativity to me. I know that, their support created a confidence, a place to really thrive and feel safe in being authentic. And shout out to both of them for
that's
for that
incredible.
100%. Yeah.
A lot of parents have no idea how to support a creative child. I think it's amazing that they were able to create that safe space for you to play and dream. And so would you say that words or writing was your first
I
kind
think
of love?
So. I think so, yeah. I think there were a lot of times when I was younger where I couldn't really understand. I couldn't make it out. And then when I would sit down to write about it, or write through it, as they say, it's when it's sort of, I felt like I had a place, within the feeling. The feeling wasn't so overwhelming, right? But yeah, I think writing. And then in high school, when I, first Tracy Blaisdell took my first photography class with, the darkroom, and that was what in the world, that was unbelievable. And, just seeing the, quite literally, right, the image come to life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, get out of here. That was unbelievable. I was I think it's also, I realized, there were these girls, we all got along pretty good, but there were a couple maybe that I didn't really, we weren't the best of friends, but I saw this thing happening where we would go out and we would shoot, come back, and then we'd go in the dark room. And there was something about, maybe, and this is like, I'm going back way back in the canon, right? But like, if you messed up your negatives, right, that was it. It was gone, right? And so I think that's something too that now, as an artist and as a thinker, and with Slamdance, and with Slamdance Unstoppable, which we'll get into later, but even my my education, which we had talked about a little bit prior to this, but these questions of how do we sit with something that's gone? And I think now, in the age that we're in, everything that's going on right now, it so much of our reaction, right? Because we're not responding to the pace of the world. I feel like we're very reactive, right? I just think like as a society, I think we used to lose things. Obviously, we still lose things. But what I mean is technology is becoming so much better and better and better. And you can get it back. If it's a photo and it's deleted, if it's backed up, then you're good, But there's this like existential crisis thing of like, back in the day when you're in the dark room and you're trying to like expose, right? The exposure's got to be right to be able to see the image. Man, some days when somebody would walk in and turn that light on in the dark room and that's it. It's gone. It's gone. Yeah. Things like that. I think that's also how I've tried to understand a lot of experiences that I've either been through or that have affected me in one way or the other, right? Is trying to understand that through line of how things are remembered and how they're experienced and then how technology is changing memory, right? And so this is sort of in the play into story. And so photography, filmmaking, writing, the stories that we are experiencing and we're trying to tell. And with Slamdance, it's like the films and the stories that are trying to kind of speak to this. For example, the contradiction of being like at the airport and you look around and like everybody's like kind of buried into their phone. Right. But like we're all together and we're all like alone together. We're all like doing this thing to be connected. I feel like a lot of the work that people are doing right now in terms of like what I'm seeing and what is really speaking across timelines and borders is this isolation and community.
Yeah, I think people definitely are looking to connect. And in a big
yeah,
way.
Yeah.
And it's almost, I don't want to say a response to technology, but I feel like it's people are on purpose. There's like apps now that actually shut down your phone so that you literally cannot look and check all of your social media platforms until a certain time.
Yeah.
And I think people are realizing that they're losing so much precious time that they're never going to get back, just like that negative, right? If the door opens, the film is gone and you just have to go out and capture it again.
Right.
And I think people are realizing that they're missing chunks of their life because they're so into social media and not outside in the world, like playing and experiencing it.
Now it's also experiencing the world, right? It's like, I feel like we're curating our own reality, but is it like curating it or creating it? And there's these like lines of like needing to write a story to express themselves.
I think that's a shift though.
Yeah.
Is going from curating and looking at it outside of you to creating and realizing like I can't get wrapped up in the curation of it because I might miss out on creating it.
Right.
While I'm too busy curating it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say, I think it also speaks a little bit to like waiting. Like,
what do you
nobody
mean?
can wait. It's impossible, right? And I don't just mean sort of like on the superficial, like everybody wants things now and the thing, but it's also, I think like this this through line of like what I'm seeing that's being submitted is this concept of like wasting time. Or like being bored because of all these things, right? You don't want to waste any time. So there's this weird, like, you're not rushed, but there's an urgency. So then there's so much content right now. And I feel like we're trying to find ourselves in it. We kind of, part of our own paralyzation of like, rushing and then also, being able to sit still long enough to really understand like, what is the story that needs to be told or like, what story is not being told? If you look at like, all the submissions and whether it's, Slamdance Group or like whatever films you're watching, what is the theme? What's the through line of what you're watching that you're enjoying? Are they docs? Are they short films? Are they micro shorts? Are they TV shows? Whatever, right? But there's always a theme.
And with that, we're going to go for a short break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Taylor Miller.
Welcome to Tell Your Story. It is a masterclass hands-on workshop that is presented by Cine Videotech and brought to you by Paradoxical Films. Crafting cinematic vision and lighting engineers with the instructor, Mr. Egon Stefan Jr. You will learn how to work with actual film, 16mm, Super 16mm, 35mm, and film cameras. In addition, how to load them and change magazines. Furthermore, the workshop will prepare you on how and what it takes to work on set as a first or second assistant camera, the fundamentals of lighting, and the pathway to becoming a director of photography. Furthermore, coming soon, unveiling the artistry, a mastering of makeup techniques with the uber-talented special effects makeup artist, Bianca Graciani. She will enrich your knowledge and techniques with professional tools that are implemented in the film industry, commercials, and more. For information about the classes and updates, everything will be posted on our website at www.paradoxicalfilms.com/tellyourstory.
Welcome back, film family. We are here with multidisciplinary artist, award-winning filmmaker, and published author Taylor Miller. We're going to add film festival director and programmer to that list for the Slamdance Film Festival. We're going to talk about Slamdance in a little bit. Real quick, I just want to get back to, you are a very adventurous person, I feel. And to experience the world and like to question and share and understand, I feel like.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
And so I know that you did your master's and your PhD in communications at the European Graduate School, Saas-Fee in Switzerland. So I wanted to ask you, what was that called you to Switzerland and what was that experience like? Because talking about understanding the world and just getting outside and creating your future, to me, that sounds aligned with everything you just said.
Right. Well, no, I think it's also kind of a perfect example of why I think now more than ever it's important to document what it is you're seeing and how you're living. As an adventurer, as you say, a way to check the compass and make sure that I'm going along in the way that I feel like is the best way. I've always been obviously drawn to documentary work and so many incredible thinkers that I've been, blessed to know about, and then even more so to have the opportunity to learn with. Dr. Robert Cole's profound thinker and his Call of Stories, Children in Crisis, which he won the Pulitzer for. When I was a teenager, I had a mentor, Dr. Jim Clark, who is from Kentucky. Now he's provost dean, Florida State. I was a teenager, but we would talk so much about documentary work. Right? We would talk so much about Call of Stories. What is a story? How do you understand your place and your time, and how do you do your best no matter what to not tell somebody's story for them, but by God, do everything you can so that they can tell their own story and that it's heard. So he really, really supported me. And another, person that's just God, so understanding and so incredible. I started going deeper into looking at poets and thinkers and philosophers. And I had been studying pretty intensely, Derrida and Baudrillard and Roland Barthes. And I was working on an essay at the end of college. I went to the University of Redlands. I found this school, EGS, European Graduate School, and I wrote the essay to get into the university on Jean Baudrillard. And then, as fate would have it, this is so crazy, he was one of the teachers that summer.
Oh, wow.
And it was incredible. He passed away a year and a half later. I mean, you might think, how does Jean Baudrillard, this philosophical thinker that's rooted in simulacra and hyperreality and what is real, and what is the connection between that and documentary work and, photojournalism and Maggie Stieber? That's another, we'll get to that in a little bit, but what in the world? What are you talking about? How's that connected to? And then I realized it went back to really listening. When I was a kid, I listened to my grandparents tell stories. My grandfather, both my grandfathers were in World War II. On my dad's side, my grandfather was a fighter pilot. And then my mom's side, my grandfather he would sit and he would tell stories about the war. He would speak so much about it, that sometimes when other relatives would come over, right, they'd come in and they'd sit down and say, he's still talking about the war. It's like, he is, What I realized was that I didn't, obviously, I wouldn't know this as a child or a teenager. He did that the most when we were around, when the kids were around. He was telling stories about the war, and he was able to navigate like a composer, this terrain of war. But he did it in a way where we weren't terrified, but he was also able to explain to us some of the things that he saw and how that shaped him and changed him. And there was a feeling when my grandmother told me later, much later, that he didn't always talk about that, but he was talking about it so that we would remember it. And that's when that was like, oh my God, because we don't remember it and we can't share it with, our community, what happens to it. And that so much of the intense kind of dedication to photography, right, it's a bit like Sisyphus, right, with the rock. Like, you're trying to figure out a way to make something stay. And even more now, I feel like it's like everybody's got their camera. Anyone now, what was it, the saying, like, anybody now can be a profound photographer or documentarian because it's so accessible, the camera and the phone. And that got me to Switzerland. And then the filmmakers that I was able to work with while I was also there, Agnes Varda, Claire Denis, Adam Agoyan, there's so many, but really it's like photographer, poet, philosopher. It's all these, grappling with these questions of what is happening to us.
So tell us about your first film.
Okay, so that actually ties in. So so it's called Debris, which is kind of goes with what we're talking about. You think of debris, it's kind of like wreckage, things that have, it's not what it was. Something's happened, and it's the result of.
So tell us a little bit about your first film, Debris. What was that about? What inspired the film?
At the time, I was living in the town where I'd gone to college. Graduated from college in May. That summer, I graduated from college, and the next day flew to Switzerland for my master's. So I was there for a while. And when I came back, there was a woman who lived, it was a house, and there was a woman who rented above us, and she had a son, and it was his birthday. And she asked if I would shoot some video. At the same time as that was happening, on my dad's side, my grandmother was suffering from Alzheimer's. She had one of the longest, at that time, longest cases in the United States. It was like 2 decades. So more to my questioning and reflecting on memory. Right. And forgetting, and sort of how do we forget things, and how do we. So the timeline of this matched up. I shot the video for the birthday. And then I realized a few days after, I asked, he was like 4 years old, and I asked him about it, and he very quickly, he was forgetting it. Right. He was forgetting that, I saw him all the time because he lived upstairs, but I showed him a clip from it, and he was kind of detached, right? Because he's a kid, and kids' memories. And then I found, at the same time as this, I found this photo of myself when I was younger, but I don't remember it being taken, right? But it happened. So then I started wondering, well, is that what it's like, to have that kind of memory loss? I'm in the photo, right? So it happened, but I don't remember that happening. And I was trying, because I'd just come back from Switzerland, working on memory, working on, all of these intersections of things. So Debris was my first real kind of short film. It was my, departure from just the still image. I guess what I mean by that is my focus, right, and my dedication had been on the still image. And I was being a photographer, that to me, that was the most ultimate. And then when I started playing around with, filmmaking in that way, I was able to really use it to, I guess, better articulate or express the thing that I was grappling with. It was this take on, I don't know, but Alzheimer's, childhood memories. And then the editing that I did was very minimal, and then it got in. to the film festival. I mean, it's just so interesting. But I thought well, maybe they got confused, you know? It's just so weird how we I think it spilled over, right, into something that, is still, I think, very prevalent today, right? Having milestones recorded, having them documented.
I think a lot of people can relate to the story and also like what you say, that it's almost like kind of you start one way and you kind of end up in a similar way with, like, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, so I would watch her kind of go through this cycle of one day she would remember the photograph and one day she wouldn't.
Wow.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking about my experiences with my own grandmother, because on her good days she would take us around to the whole city in Connecticut and tell us all these amazing stories of what she remembered.
Right.
And then the next day she didn't even remember that she took us around. We went all around the town and she told us all these stories. I mean, and she kept thinking that I was my mother. She didn't recognize my mother. She thought I was. So it's this weird kind of thing where you're like, oh my God, we have a good day. Like, tell me, and then, and then she's like, can see the picture and understand it. And then the next day, she might not even know who you are. So I think it's just it's something that very powerful.
Yeah. And I think it's also like, because my grandfather had she was put into a home, like assisted living type from very, very young. I mean, she went there and then she was there for a long time. And you know how it is when you think back on memories from your childhood, like a mirror, like they're either the object is closer than it appears, where it's like, whoa, that was only that long ago. And it wasn't, or like for me, it's like, she was always there. So then in my mind, she was always like sick, I think it's just sort of trying to understand that and then trying to be like, well, what do you do with then what do you, I remember asking my grandfather, like, who do you talk to, And you're so young and you're so like naive in like the best way, right? Because like that's such a heavy like comment, but I'm genuine, but I'm also like, how do you measure things? Like, or is it sort of like, depending on how her day was, right? Is it like that counted, right? If she remembers as an artist, right? And as a documentarian, this resonated with me, right? And even though I get older and, it's like there was so much to process. But then with, when I started programming for Slamdance, after I, got my PhD from the same place, European Graduate School, a great honor and privilege is being able ever to see someone's art, whether it's they're sharing a script version, their photographs, a film, being able to just like watch someone's film. I have so much admiration, for every single person that shares their film, it's like, whoa, you so vulnerable. You got to be so anchored and so grounded to really share something that means the world to you, despite any feedback, despite whether no one else sees it, whether it gets into something, whether it does, it's like that thing, right? Like when you like finish a poem or something, when it goes out into the world and it can't be like quote unquote edited again. It's an act of bravery and courage that like is still, it's just very humbling. And like all this to say, when I, am blessed enough to come across a submission playing with these concepts of memory, forgetting, landscape, a town that had a family store for all these generations and it's gone and, but what was built in its place? Or there's so many similarities to film, I feel like, in architecture and the way that we, cultivate spaces. And then the other like major aspect of so many threads of what I've, is erasure, this concept of what is included, and what is not. So I think that's also kind of been a major impetus of my like dedication to inclusivity on my, creative, but like collectively, I've had some really powerful, amazing people that, I've just been on this journey with, and I think, during the pandemic, it was, I don't know anybody that didn't at some point during the pandemic ask themselves, what am I doing with my life?
Absolutely. A lot of people made a lot of changes.
Sure, yeah.
But we're going to take a quick break. And then when we get back, we're going to dive into Slamdance and learn more about the organization and film programming. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our partners that helped us make this show possible. Cinevideotech has provided film equipment, training, and rental services inside and outside the United States since 1968. Theatrical Productions offers consulting, productions, and rental services in Central and South America for a wide range of films, advertising, marketing, commercial projects, and more. Art Accelerator is a non-profit organization that helps emerging artists accelerate their careers through film classes and film industry networking events.
Welcome back, film family. You are watching the Cinema Pathway television show, and we are here with the multidisciplinary artist, Taylor Miller. So, Taylor, tell us a little bit, for those out there that don't know, what is the Slamdance Film Festival,
Sure.
and how did you get involved with it first as a programmer?
Slamdance Film Festival is awesome, and it's not just awesome because it's where I work and I love it. It all began in the 90s, small group of filmmakers who submitted to Sundance, did not get into Sundance, and then basically looked at each other and they were like, well, I still want to see your film. And it was like, well, I still want to see yours. Well, this is have our own film, festival. I'm simplifying it, obviously, but it was born out of rejection, but it was artists not taking no for an answer in terms of that does not fit. That's great. That's fine. That was their decision. But then it's this other incredible thing that was created, right? Of let's bring the community together, just keep going forward in a new way together. So it's amazing. I mean, it's incredible, the history. It's 2025. It'll be 31 years. I mean, look, Slamdance alumni are some of the biggest names. You got Christopher Nolan, you got the Russo brothers, Lena Dunham's first film was a short film at Slamdance. It's just so many incredible filmmakers. Visionaries. So the other major aspect of Slamdance, right, is not only the comeback of it, in a way, but capacity to discover groundbreaking talent that kind of supersedes expectation beyond belief. Lynn Sheldon, Bong Joon-ho, Sean Baker, now he's, his film won Venice this year. And for all this time, the last 30 years, it's been in Utah. Right? It's been right along Sundance. It's on Main Street and the Thing and the Deal. And last year we were at the Yarrow Hotel, so it wasn't on Main Street. But, when I became festival director, the parallel of being a co-founder of Slamdance Unstoppable, which bringing, Juliet Romeo into it, Unstoppable is our program for filmmakers with visible and non-visible disabilities. So we're up in Utah. Utah's played an incredible role in the support and the history and just it's its own character in this whole story of Slamdance, right? It's also accessibility has now more than ever. It's our true north, so to speak. And, we needed to reevaluate things and location and priorities and, what really fits, what really matches with where our heart is, what we're trying to do for the community. So we announced in April this year that, Slamdance is moving from Utah to Los Angeles. So Slamdance, usually in January for the last, 30 years. It's going to be end of February in Los Angeles, 2025. So, it's accessibility, across the board. It's priority. speaks a little bit to what I mentioned before about action. And a lot of people have like really good intentions. It doesn't mean anything unless the actions really support it. And we've been able to do that, you know.
So that's exciting. The move to LA for the festival.
Amazing. Yes.
So I'm really excited. I know you've got a lot of special things planned that we can't necessarily talk about today, but some of you go to Slamdance or have your films screening at Slamdance.
Exactly. That's right.
And then you'll be able to see for yourself. So Taylor, tell us a little bit about how did you first get involved in Slamdance and how did you become a programmer?
Yeah,
and
so my man, this is a shout out to Robert Nichols. He's in Los Angeles. He's literally there. I don't know if there's a better person on the planet Earth. He is the best. We became good friends at grad school. He said, I think you should be a programmer. You know, Slamdance is by filmmakers for filmmakers, right? The filmmakers that then become alumni, they program the festival, right? So it's not like somebody on the 17th floor making all the decisions, right? It's the filmmakers. Like so as you can imagine though, some years it's much harder than other times because with people's own projects, the number of submissions just increases. That year, they had done kind of a special reach out for filmmakers, artists, creators that knew of Slamdance, but also like, you know, if they had films or things, you know, they share it with, you know, the head of the festival. And it's like, would this be a good fit if they were a programmer? And that's how it began, you know, and that was in 2010.
So what would you say, like, when you're a programmer and you're watching all these films,
right?
How do you go about selecting the films?
I feel like I can tell pretty quickly if it's a film that I'm going to like, just because, and it's not just that I'm like, I don't think that I'm super picky, but everybody says that I'm very picky. It doesn't need to be like ridiculously polished. Like, in fact, we might get a film and like a short film, and then you see the budget on it, and it's like a lot of money, right? And it's cool, and it looks really good, right? It's not really taking like a chance. It's not really like risking anything, you know? So I think Slamdance is...
It's about pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, right? But it's like, it's raw and it's edgy, but it's not like, you know, there was a feature from this past festival. I think the total, it had like a cast and crew and all of it. It was like 6 people. For a feature. What? But they're also in it. That's just an example. And it's like prolific. It's like you're watching a masterpiece. You know, you take another film, for example, it's like, what was their budget? And you're like, it's like $13,000. You're like, no, I'm sorry. I don't think we're talking about the same film. I'm asking you about the feature film, blah, 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 blah. You know, and it's like, no. It was shot with $13,000. It's grit, you know, it's just like there's a story, it was created, and it's got to be shown, it's got to be shared, and I'm not going to let anything stop me from making it. Also, just an unbelievable amount of resilience. Some of the stuff that our filmmakers, you know, just as people have been through, and they're using creativity and using filmmaking as like their healing process to unreal, you know?
What do you think are some of the I hate to say mistakes, but I feel like sometimes when you have a film that has such high production value, but the story is, like you said, nobody's taking a chance.
Yeah.
That's the worst kind because, you know, you're like, man, it looks good, but there's just that lacking, you know, that like,
I usually ask, like, I had somebody reach out to me recently and they showed me a film they've been working on. It's really good. But I was definitely 100% aware that like they were somewhere else when it was being made. Because I ended up, what I mean by that is I had to say like, what is the film you actually want to make? It was like, this is it. This is not the film you want to make. Hell no. Like, and they're like, yeah, it is, Taylor. I've been doing this for 4 years. I mean, this is my film. And I'm like, what's a film you would never make? What do you even mean by that? And I'm like, what's something that you would love to do in another time or another planet, but you would never have the nerve to do that? They respond, and then it's like just in that response, now in their head, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the story, right? So it's not about like, okay, now I'm going to stop production on this, you know, film and I'm going to go shoot. That's not it. That's very extreme. But it's also like, where can you kind of like surprise yourself? Like, are there elements in the story where it's obviously going to go in this direction, but why exactly?
Or
Does
where
it
else
have
could
to?
it go?
That's what I mean. Why,
Yeah.
why does it have to?
How can you switch it up and
Yeah.
put your little special
Yeah.
sauce on it?
Another interesting thing is, like, sometimes people have said, I'm trying to get this thing sold. I
Make
can't
it more
go
commercial.
too far off.
Yeah.
And then you're like, did it ever occur to you that maybe if you went more off the beaten path, it could get sold? Because I think that's another thing is, like, for every new idea that comes, right, there could be, 1,000 people with the same idea, but 1,000 people are going to tell it a different way.
Yeah, and you want to hear how that person would
Yeah.
tell it, not what we've seen already before over and over and
Totally,
over
yeah.
again.
For sure.
Yeah, because so now you're the director of Slamdance. What's this next step? Where's the vision?
So we're going in March. It'll be 2 years of being the festival director. I love it. I love everything about it. It's a complete honor, obviously, but it's also the dedication and commitment that I have to the community just increases. I think that, every year there's so many things that I feel like I'm constantly learning or relearning. I mean, the industry right now, we spoke a little bit about before, but it's like, it's in a free fall.
So how do you see the festival kind of playing
Well,
a role
honestly, yeah,
in the
honestly,
industry?
I think that film festivals are going to be more important than ever. I really do. I think that getting together, celebrating community, watching films together. I know there's a lot of things that would probably make my response not correlate with that. But one thing for sure is that it's critical that people feel like they have a place to share their thoughts and their feelings, and if they're filmmakers, then their work. And being able to just talk through something creatively, it's really critical.
So where do you see the future of Slamdance going to?
I see the future of Slamdance continuing reestablish what filmmaking is, redefining the ability to constantly ask, collaborate on things, and, from a real place of like intention. I think that Slamdance is an incredible platform. There's so many filmmakers and creators that we can learn from. Slamdance is a commitment to always learning. I always want it to be an opportunity to learn alongside our community and really support them in every authentic way that we can. So part of that, redefining and re-questioning and it's a very hard question to answer because some of the smartest people I've ever met and the most creative people I've ever met are out of a job right now, and they have been for a while in LA. And there's so much with streaming right now and so many things that are happening. The execs, doesn't matter the hierarchy, every week starts the same. You're not quite sure what's going to happen. I'm just grateful right now that we are able to have these submissions, to create these lineups, to champion these stories and these voices that go unnoticed or unheard. I think Slamdance Unstoppable is also a great example of pushing through and doing everything we can to hear and find those stories and really give them the platform,
Slamdance is an amazing film festival. If you haven't checked it out, please go online, check it out. They also have their own YouTube channel.
So we have our own micro streaming channel. Slamdance channel.
You should definitely check out some of the films and support independent artists. Thank you so much for the platform that you give and your commitment and dedication to the community. I mean, this is nationwide. We're spoiled because Taylor's here with us in South Florida. However, Slamdance is,
You're so sweet. Thanks, Dana.
Across the country. So definitely check that out. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more with Taylor about some advice she has for filmmakers that are maybe just getting into the industry now in the midst of all of this change. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
At Cinema Pathway TV, we are committed to bring value to you and our film community as we explore the craft of filmmaking around the world. Also, visit us online at www.paradoxicalfilms.com/shop, where you can purchase Paradoxical Films and Cinema Pathway gear such as hoodies, t-shirts, hats, stickers, and more. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at cinema_pathway_podcast for behind-the-scenes footage, photos, and more.
Welcome back, film family. I am your co-host, Dana Della Camera, with the Cinema Pathway television show, and we are here with the multi-talented, award-winning filmmaker and published author, Taylor Miller. And before we took a break, we said that when we came back, Taylor was going to share some advice and valuable information to filmmakers. What information do you think could really help filmmakers as far as their films overall, or festivals, storytelling?
I think it's important I'm taking a moment, I'm pausing about this because it's interesting, but it's a question that I don't think people ask enough, right? In terms of what gets your attention, right? Like, not from me, but just programmers. And I think that, within the first minute of the film,
you already know if you're going to like it or not.
I mean, I do have this feeling, and then when I sit down to watch a film, I'm very active. There's nothing like passive about it. I'm very locked in, right? Because of course, it's blood, sweat, and tears, right? If you're a filmmaker or creator, it's interesting because sometimes filmmakers, it's not until a few minutes into the film or maybe even later where there'll be just a stunning visual, right? And sometimes, if I have the opportunity to speak with the filmmaker, if it's a film that gets in or if it doesn't, and I can speak to a filmmaker, why didn't we see minutes 7, 8, 9? It was like a constant just visual after visual. It was like, just incredible. Well, that was what I wanted to do earlier in the film. Always has to do with listening to their gut. But I decided, or the other one that I think is really, really important is, and this is like the next part of it, right? That if your film gets into a festival, right? The images that you choose to represent your film and your team, right? Your EPK kit, right? Those got to be just phenomenal. An image that would stop you. It's so beautiful. Doesn't need to be perfect, but it's got to be saying something.
So it's like the personality of like the team, or like the
no, like the
like,
film
what do you mean?
itself, right? Not the team, but it's like the film itself. So many times, there's incredible films. And then you look at a team's media kit. None of the images that are the most striking that you saw in the film are included. So then because of that, it's not picked in terms of like you're trying to represent, the festival, or, however you want to put a photo up on the website, for example. So you go through the folders, right? Like that filmmakers submit, and then it's either there or it's not. If it's not there, but if you look, right, there's something really important to notice. It's not just Slamdance, right? It's like if you really look events or festivals or collectives or showcases, and you look at the presentation of it, it's not going to be like 40% bold, 25% pretty cool, and the rest is up in the air. It's all got to match. I would say be more cognizant of which images you are choosing to represent your film so that people will watch it.
It needs to look professional. If it doesn't look professional,
I think, or if it's not going to look professional, then it needs to look like that's intended.
Like a creative choice.
Yes.
Or a genre,
like
or a throwback to.
Like,
it has to look at a high quality because, again, you're putting it on your website, and now all of a sudden Slamdance is associated with this quality.
Yeah, but it's also like if you had like 3 images, right, to represent the last 2 years, right, of, everything you've put into this film. It's brutal, after the fact. If you have the opportunity to talk with a filmmaker and you say, can I see other images you were considering? They overthought it, they didn't go with their gut or whatever. Don't overcomplicate things for yourself.
When they're looking for images to pull and submit, what would you recommend?
Something that is going to pull you in so that you want to see what is on the rest of the webpage, or like you want to see the film. For example, the film Complex Forms, that's the one from Italy, was in the Slamdance lineup, narrative feature, received honorable mention. But the image, it ended up being like the image that like Variety chose, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, right? And it's this gentleman standing like kind of there's a beautiful, almost like palace behind him. I think it's black and white. There's some tones kind of sepia, I feel like. But above him is a car that is just in flight. But it's like, I think turned upside, it's not good. It's not good. Whatever's happening. But the guy is standing right under it, completely like resolved. So it's beautiful and it's terrifying and you don't know what's going on, but your brain literally needs to make sense of it. So obviously you want to see the film to find
you
out,
want to know what's going
so that
on.
you can put a period at the end of that question, right? And it was a no-brainer. It didn't matter if that was it. That's the image. It's so incredible, so profound. They knew the branding of the film so well, right? That it's a work of art. The photo itself looked like a painting, right? So it's like you need to be thinking about how you are representing your film, and that within that representation, right, all the crew, like not in the photo, I'm saying though, like you've got to show how hard all of you have worked.
Yeah, the quality of the project comes through in the image. And then wow, there's something special going on. There's a unique idea going on here, enough to make you want to watch it and get excited.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're going to get excited, probably somebody else that sees it is going to get excited and that kind of a thing. No, that's great, because I don't think probably most people think enough about those
because
types
it's
of
like,
things.
They
probably just think, oh, it's just for the website. It's not a big deal. But like it has to be a complete package. And a lot of times I think there's like energies with things. If you can feel the energy of a film from a photo, you're like, oh man, this is going to be good.
So
this
true.
is something special.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
So I definitely believe there's like energies around projects that you feel that come across. What other advice would you have to filmmakers getting into the industry now, since so many things are like up in the air and changing and shifting? I know you want to talk about AI, but it's part of the industry now. What advice do you have for somebody getting into the industry now?
The best of times, the worst of times, right? Don't not make your film because of what's going on in the industry. Let the current state of the industry be such a deciding factor for you that you decide it's ultimately not worth it. Specific to AI, what I was referring to, right, was that there's so much going on right now in terms of the content, the streaming, who's really in charge, production, incentives, that I'm saying don't not do something, and I know that that's difficult because there's so many things right now that are like, but in terms of AI, it's like, it would be wrong to think we're just at the beginning, most representations of AI and how we are using it or finding out about it. Or a friend of mine that is a professor at MIT, he said the most surprising about AI is how long it's been used, right? And not in terms of like decades or that, but like none of this happened overnight, So technologically, we've arrived at a place where the opinion of AI is very strong, whether for or against. I don't think that it can be minimized in terms of we have to embrace it because it's happening anyway. It's much more complicated than that. Obviously, I also know that there's so much that's already in motion with AI that, to be honest with you, I don't know how much of like it's already going to happen. It's people can like reject it all they want.
It's not going
it's
away.
Happening. It's happening. Mm-hmm. So you can choose if any role you want to have with it. When Tyler Perry, I don't know if you saw this story a while ago, but I think the story is that his assistant had been trying to show him this thing that somebody at his studios had. And he's a very busy guy, right? So he's got all this going on all the time. And then finally, I think they ended up just leaving it like on his computer or something so that he could see this example that they wanted to show him. He was set to break ground in Atlanta on what was to be like $1 billion production studio, right? And he saw this, and within an hour, the breaking ground and everything has been paused because he had such a profound response to it and how much was done in a hypothetical production, the sheer bandwidth of people doing it and the bandwidth of having AI do it, and then the existential crisis part, right, of when you couldn't quite tell which part would have been the human doing it and which part would have been the AI.
I think it's even more important to have more documentaries that are documenting what's really happening in real time. Taylor, are you ready for final thoughts?
I am ready for final thoughts for $250.
Awesome. Let's do it. Which project that you've worked on so far has been your favorite and why? The first thing that comes to mind.
Being a mom.
All right. I love that answer. Yes. Who is a filmmaker, director, and actor that you wish you could work with?
James Baldwin, I think, James Baldwin, and then like Elia Kazan.
Who is somebody like an actor, filmmaker, director? Who's someone that you've always wanted to work with?
Cate Blanchett is like pretty unbelievably incredible. James Baldwin, just to like sit with him and learn about all of it.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
What's your favorite place in the world?
With my wife and kids.
And what's the favorite location you've shot on before?
Palau.
What is your favorite song?
I'm going to go Love Supreme by John Coltrane.
How do you wish to be remembered?
Real.
Taylor keeps it 100% real. I love that about you. You have a beautiful heart and you're very authentic with
Thanks,
everything
Dana.
that you say.
Thank you.
What's your favorite 80s movie?
That's very difficult because literally I feel like the 80s, they were all just epic. Stand by me.
Wow. I keep thinking of Goonies because I heard they're going to make a remake.
What?
Yeah, I heard they're like doing
Oh my God.
thing.
Chester
Yeah.
Copperpot.
Yeah, I'm so excited. They're like, I think signed on to do it.
Yeah,
Can't wait for Goonies.
but then it's like Back to the Future. I mean, yeah, I can't. Yeah, this is like, I don't know. That's a.
If you had to pick one word to sum up all of the work that you've done so far creatively in your life, what would that one word be?
Ongoing.
Okay, Scorsese or Spielberg?
Put a third person in there just
Wes
to like.
Anderson.
How about Martin Spielberg? I will connect them.
Okay, Martin Spielberg.
Or Steven Scorsese.
It's a hyper.
I don't know.
It's a
hybrid.
hybrid. We know that. Well, one of the things we didn't really get to talk too much about was that you started painting again. So, what are some of your
I did start painting
favorite
again. That's right.
favorite painters or visual artists? Who inspires you?
I love Basquiat. I love Edward Hopper. Love Rothko.
For those of you out there who are filmmakers who would like to submit your film to the Slamdance Film Festival, how can they submit their film, Taylor?
They submit it through Film Freeway or the Slamdance website, so slamdance.com. You can do a direct form on our website.
Awesome. So submit your films for any time is a good time.
Yeah, and any questions around it, submissions at slamdance.com.
And if they want to connect with you or if they have any questions, how could they follow you?
If you all want to follow Slamdance on Instagram, it's at Slamdance Group. So that's good. That's a good one.
So when filmmakers submit to Slamdance, do you provide feedback on their films or only for filmmakers who might ask for it?
No, but what we do is we also have the screenplay competition. Within that is all of the screenplays that are submitted. We have readers, that's program opens up in February. Obviously now it'll be probably in March because now our festival's in February, but for filmmakers, we don't give feedback in that way.
So, but the screenwriting, that's for feature?
Yeah, all. No. It's all, you go on the website and you'll see.
So there's still a chance to connect with Slamdance, get involved in a writing capacity or a film capacity.
That's right.
So any final words that you would like to leave with our audience?
I love you, Dana. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is, you're amazing and I appreciate it. And Juliet and my camera boys, they're amazing. Thank you all for everything. This has been great.
Thank you, film family, for tuning in. Taylor, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. And we just want to let you know that you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah, and we'd love to have you back even after the Slamdance Film Festival.
That you're going to come to.
Yes, absolutely. I'll be there with bells on. And also check us out on our podcast as well at Cinema Pathway Podcast and or on your favorite streaming platform. Thank you so much. That's a wrap for today, and we'll see you next time.
Lights out.